This Sunday, on Episode 5 of I on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday, on Episode 5 of I on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday, on Episode 5 of I on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday, on Episode 5 of I on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday, on Episode 5 of I on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday on episode 5 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
This Sunday on episode 5 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner
could write a better anthem for we.
This Sunday on episode 6 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and Police Service to talk about security for Carnival and beyond. In studio will be Assistant Commissioner of Police and Gold Commander Kelvin Thompson and Assistant Commissioner of Police and Alternate Gold Commander Winston Maharaj. Representing the Defense Force will be Lieutenant Colonel Dwayne Edwards. These gentlemen will share some safety tips and the national security plans for the combined forces operations so we can all have a safe and enjoyable carnival. All hands will be on deck. Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Independency right here on I-95.5 FM, live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much. It's the Sunday before Carnival, and the Sunday before Carnival Sunday, which we think is an appropriate time to have the executive of the Trinidad and Tobago, part of the executive of Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, in with us here this morning to take you through some very important steps, tips, and their recommendations for Carnival 2024 to ensure that we have a safe an enjoyable carnival as we normally do. But, you know, there are some concerns with some citizens, and these gentlemen are here this morning to alleviate all those concerns and bring you in, of course, involve you in the plans for national security for Carnival Trinidad and Tobago this year. Now, in studio we have ACP Tactical Support and Gold Commander Calvin Thompson, and ACP Northwest, and who's the alternate Gold Commander, Winston Maharaj. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you so much. We know it has been a very busy time for you all, but we really appreciate the time that you all are taking to sit with us here this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome, and thank you as well for having us.
Thanks for having us here. Good morning.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And let me just say from the onset, we really appreciate the work of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the work that you all keep doing. We know it's a lot of behind the scenes that the public don't know about, that we cannot really have an appreciation for. And when the police, you know, do bad, we knock the police. When they do good, we have to praise them. And this is one instance here where you all continue to hold on to the wheel and guide us safely. And we thank you all for that. So let's, you know, the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival has earned a reputation for being very safe over the years. And gentlemen, but how are we being prepared? ACP Thompson, we can start with you. Tell us whether the TTPS is poised to repeat this record, and what can the public expect from this preparation?
Okay. Well, again, morning to you, Garth and Natasha, and to Trinidad and Tobago and the wider listening public. First off, Carnival for the TTPS remains a constant. As the nation's carnival has grown and evolved, so too has the police service. We consider ourselves an essential ingredient of the greatest show on earth. So the record you speak of, sir, is built upon a foundation of tradition, set upon standards of performance in the management of carnival-like activities. To the extent that many of my senior officers would recall, other jurisdictions would have come to this nation to see how our police service manages carnival. I recall one of the places that come to mind right now is Notting Hill Carnival in the early days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So that is the foundation our record is built on.
And Natasha and I have seen Notting Hill Carnival.
In progress. It's really a lot of people. It's a massive people in a very, small area. So, yeah.
When I tell you we've seen 2 million people in one place, we've seen that.
Yeah.
And they came to us. That's wonderful.
Yes, it takes something to manage persons in that cultural setting, in that atmosphere. Is a certain amount of patience that
absolutely
you'd see at Carnival.
Yes.
That you would not expect otherwise. So again, that's where our record is built upon. However, we do not take it for granted. It's something that is upgraded continuously in line with the dynamics of our changing environment. It's not a copy and paste approach, I would say.
Right.
So, we speak to Carnival and how we have prepared, sir. We started preparing similar to the band leaders even before the Carnival ends. We're looking towards the one to come. 2023 would have been the alternate with Mr. Hazel.
Right.
And going forward, Mr. Maharaj here has been in Port of Spain and Western in charge and would have been the gold commander for several events throughout the past year. All of this feeds into our continuity. We would have met with all the stakeholders. And when I say we, the gold command for Carnival is not, while it is TTPS-led, it is not limited to myself and Mr. Maharaj. It extends across all elements of the national security network, all other government ministries, institutions, organizations with an interest in Carnival. And when I say all other, we talk about Ministry of Works, we're talking about the churches, we're talking about the regional health authorities.
Right, so because I know the Carnival started since December, and
yes,
you all would have met with meetings with stakeholders, like we did site visits and other logistics, to put in place, like human resource. And so, yes, I was about to ask about that, the meeting with stakeholders. How did that?
The meetings have been continuous and expansive. So far, those that we have met with and continue to fine-tune our overall response is interactive and ongoing. The NCC major stakeholder, you would have seen demonstrated by events that have already gone. We are particularly proud of the panorama. I walked through Skinner Park yesterday. We are particularly proud of what has gone. However, we are not resting. We continue leading up to the main event.
No, there's something that we always look at. You have a valuable asset in the mounted and canine branch of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I mean, I've met with these gentlemen, very affable, very, very hardworking unit at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Now, how are they prepared really to deal with this? Before we go on, the public always look at that, and especially with the horses.
Yes, sir. All events, the mounted play a key part in terms of crowd control. Very effective. Our horses are prepared in advance. The nature of the animal is that in terms of memory, unlike a canine, it needs a refreshing. So in the approach of carnival season, we replicate a carnival situation. So you take the horses, the police band, and quite often we would have police officers, which would include the Guard and Emergency Branch in that setting. You'd also have recruits representing a carnival band and music. So you sensitize the horses beforehand. When a horse looks at you, it does not see you at the height that is on your ID card. It sees a larger person.
Yes. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never heard anybody describe it like that.
Yeah, so it brings them into that comfort.
They see a larger person.
Yeah.
Not like how he makes it with the ID card.
Yeah, because we're not really at kind of at eye level, depending on your height. You're not really at eye level with the horse. So.
Right.
I'll make special mention of the canine within recent time, again with the assistance of our international partners. Our canine unit has expanded greatly. You'll have seen it again for the panorama. Canine most present.
Yep.
So for the Carnival Monday and Tuesday and all the other events, because of the numbers we have now, they will be deployed in areas you least expect.
Right.
Yes, it's always fascinating to see how animals are working, in tandem with humans to achieve certain things. So kudos to the members of those two units for how they work with the animals and, take care of them. And
you said something there just now. And I don't think, I just wanted to go over that part. You see, when a horse look at you, they see a larger person?
Yes, sir. This is how their eyesight. This is one of the things. This is how their eyesight works.
Right.
We see it at. Yes, but those animals.
Yes.
They see it larger. Hence the reason why they are so sensitive at times.
Yes.
Right.
Condition them.
Okay. Understood. So and of course you urge the public again to not mess with them and when people drunk, they tend to do some really foolish stuff.
Well, again, credit to the traditions and of the handlers and even the police and to our public. Generally, our public is respectful.
Right.
In the presence of the horses, particularly.
Yeah.
Generally.
Right.
Children would be attracted to them. But our handlers, they would also be sensitive of the over-attraction that may take place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But before I come to ACP Maharaj, the Carnival is a campaign, a smart campaign. It's about safety, choices. We have it. And I've seen that the media, the TTPS, the communications department of the TTPS have been using like ambassadors from the like artists and to send messages for the campaign. So they have been working overtime to educate the public and inform the public about, and we thank them for volunteering their service to this country by joining with the TTPS to send these, because you see it on the news every minute we get a break, you see it during coverage, you see it, and we congratulate the communications unit led by Ms. Hachi for that. With ACP Maharaj, now we heard, the Welfare Association made mention of police officers not receiving their back pay and were disgruntled. How will this affect attendance of officers for duty with all the preparations that you all have engaged in?
Thank you and good morning again. We don't anticipate any disruption with respect to the perception of police officers not reporting for duty, albeit they haven't, having not received back pay and other emoluments. We don't anticipate any sick out or anything like that. I have spoken at length with respect to that, but I just want to, before going further into that issue,
sure, sir,
I just want to reinforce some of the main objectives of this Carnival organization committee under the aegis of the Gold Commander. The police, our main objective is, one, to sustain high visibility in and around Carnival-related events, including events-related residential critical infrastructure and coastlines. Our remit is to provide courteous, tactful, and responsive service to the public, to ensure public safety and to preserve public order, to minimize opportunities to commit crime and disruptive behavior, to minimize traffic congestion through the main thoroughfares, and to prosecute offenders who commit violations of the law. That is really our remit in terms of the security agency, with responsible for just that, security and safety during this Carnival period. To date, and you have alluded to some of the pluses, positives coming out of Carnival traditionally. This is my 32nd Carnival as a serviceman. And in those 31 years prior, I cannot cast my mind back to any major eventuality to which the law enforcement has been unable to appropriately respond. And therefore that speaks to the level of management and organization that goes into the Carnival planning. Now, to execute or to discharge that duty, and I'm speaking directly now to the question that you pose, it requires the maximum amount of human resource personnel available as the active police officers. And to that end, we have mobilized all police officers, inclusive of those who are on vacation leave, as is customary, to return and report for duty with specific postings. Special Reserve police officers, municipal police officers, all the partners in law enforcement form part of this committee and also are drawn upon to provide the contingency in the event, which is remote, that disgruntled police officers who for some reason or the other choose to stay away because they didn't receive their back pay, which really is appalling in terms of that thought process. We have put the systems in place to provide that level of security and presence, high visibility in the areas that so require our presence. So we don't really anticipate any major issues. We have the main plan. Built into the plan is a contingency, and we will discharge this duty as we have done in the past. And let me just add, I recall some years ago, an indirect call was hinted to police officers to stay away from duty for Carnival. Unfortunately, the attendance was overwhelming. Or should I say, fortunately. So generally, police officers understand their remit. They know that it is a national event. The calling in terms of the office of a police officer is sacrosanct, and police officers generally hold dearly to the oath of office. And it's not that, and let me allay that concern. It's not that police officers ain't get the back pay or not getting the back pay. That is a myth. That's a misconception. It is a monumental task to process all the applications in a short period of time. What police officers may not be aware of, and maybe we are guilty of not communicating effectively with our membership, what they're not aware of is that there is a myriad of resources that has been mobilized to ensure the expeditious processing of these issues, back pay. It takes time. It's a check-in, it's dollars and cents you're talking about. It's a check-in, counter check-in, auditing, persons working on weekend, extended hours, drawing on the resources of our brother and sister agencies to come into that finance branch and provide that level of support for police officers, because the money has been allocated, budgetary allocation some time ago. But it's a huge task. And we certainly, the police administration, want to make the funds available to police officers. They're entitled to it. So it's not a question of they not getting the back pay. It takes time. And that's just the process. But the Commissioner of Police has put all the systems in place to ensure. Unfortunately, we did not meet the timeline, 31st January. But it's not to say that you're not getting your back pay. It is there. It's just a matter of time. We must put the checks and balances in place before we make that payment. So people will be paid, and to date, more than 55% of the regular police officers have received their back pay. More than 99% of special reserve officers have received their back pay. The others are those with some issues that needs to be rectified before the payments can be made. So that's where we are with respect to personnel available for duty and understanding their patriotic duty and their calling in the office of police officers to serve, especially in this event known as Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. Inherent in that is the international connotation and association with this event.
Well said. Thank you very much for that, sir.
That's fair enough. Very comprehensive explanation.
Yes.
But before we go on, Garth, I just want to go back a little bit to the working animals. We have a question from someone on YouTube who asked about, she said she recalled an incident where a horse bit a little boy. And she's asking, what do you think would trigger that kind of reaction from the horse, so that people understand what they ought not to do around horses, especially because we know that, maybe people don't know, but horses are very sensitive animals and are specially trained to be in these kinds of working environments that they are in.
Yes, ma'am. So as you said, horses are sensitive, and they feed off the sensitivity of human beings. As a matter of fact, our mounted branch, they extend our community service with our horses in terms of with children. Sometimes it assists greatly as a therapeutic value for persons with certain disabilities.
Yes.
Having said that, and it comes back to our campaign that safety also stands with you and the responsibility of individuals, that I'm not aware of the circumstances of that particular situation, but I know we as adults have a responsibility to check ourselves and those under our care to ensure that they do not go beyond certain boundaries. I'm not saying that was the situation, but I suspect, especially given the level of care and training our horses are given just for Carnival, just to go out in the public.
Yeah.
It's not just one session they go through, several.
Yep.
Yeah, but even the... Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, it's a common sense approach. Children generally will be attracted to these animals.
Yes.
But in this environment, it is not one where you will go and pet the horses. They have been conditioned for crowd control. I suggest that the parents take a weekend and go down to the zoo and pet the animals there that in a domesticated environment. It's a common sense approach.
Yes.
Responsible behavior, common sense.
And they're
you don't
working.
pet the animals when they're conditioned to perform a particular function.
Correct.
Because in that environment too, they will be always in defensive mode, right?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're working. I mean, just like humans, they are working animals. So they're on duty, so to speak. So, I mean,
Correct.
they're not in an environment, as ACP said, that would allow for that kind of interaction.
And it's just like you don't mess with a police officer. A canine or a police
Correct,
horse
correct.
has a regimental number too, you know.
Yes.
I would suspect,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Certainly.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
you know, they are part of, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are fortunate to have in studio this morning ACP Tactical Support, our Gold Commander, Calvin Thompson, and ACP Northwest, alternate Gold Commander, Winston Maharaj. We're going to take a break. And when we return, we have lots more for you, but during the break too as well, we have some tips from the Communications Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service for you to pay attention to, especially the ones about glass bottles. So you'll be hearing that during this program today. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're listening to Independency.
Carnival season, a celebration of color, creativity, revelry, and unity. We welcome people from all over the world to enjoy TNT Carnival, the greatest show on earth. But behind the scenes, there's a relentless effort and precise preparation to ensure your safety. On foot, in the air, on horseback, on motorcycle, and mobile patrol, we are your constant line of defense. While you party, we patrol. While you wine, we work so you can enjoy our sweet soca music. All ranks out in full force under the watchful eyes of the Commissioner of Police. The rhythm, the vibes, and everything that makes Carnival memorable. From desk job to detective, every officer is called to the front lines. We come off leave so you can leave all your worries behind and fet with no stress. All hands on deck. While you play, we work. We are dedicated to protect and serve to ensure that your experience of the greatest show on earth is safe, enjoyable, exciting, and memorable.
The Government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons, continues to develop and implement effective policies and procedures to prevent and suppress human trafficking. To date, the National Task Force has developed 2 national plans of action against the crime of trafficking in persons. Trinidad and Tobago adopts a 4-pronged approach in its response to human trafficking. 1. Effective identification of victims and witnesses. 2. Prevention of human trafficking. 3. Protection of victims and witnesses. And 4. Prosecution of suspected traffickers. In the Ministry of National Security, we established a specialized unit called the Counter-Trafficking Unit to lead and manage Trinidad and Tobago's response to human trafficking. The Counter-Trafficking Unit works closely with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Immigration Division, and international law enforcement agencies to aggressively and proactively investigate and prosecute suspected human traffickers. Human trafficking is a serious crime. Rest assured, the Government of Trinidad and Tobago and its agencies remain committed in the fight against human trafficking and will respond with immediate effect when the need arises.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Bossman, Stop showing off all that cash by the bar. We moving smart this carnival. Don't make yourself an easy target. Use your head. Think smart to be safe this carnival. This is the fearless one. Let's go!
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for staying with us, and thank you for those of you who are joining us on I-95.5 and as well on our Facebook and YouTube streams. Garth, you wanted to talk about the divisional heads
yes,
with ACP Thompson.
Yes, ACP Thompson. So you met with divisional heads, and what are some of the assurances from them? And somehow you could jump into, if you have any input in this one, tell us about that meeting with divisional heads.
Yes, so part of the wider consultation would have been with all divisional heads we have 10 police divisions in Trinidad and Tobago. Carnival, as we say, evolved to the point where you have at least 52 regional at different levels.
Right.
Particularly look at Juve has taken great dimensions in places like Cedros, Barrackpore. So each division is required to provide an operational plan for Carnival, calling for resources. So we would have met with each of them. They would have done their presentations, which I am satisfied with.
Also, they have to do a presentation for you all.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Before, because ultimately we have to present it to our commission and then to the
public.
To the national
security,
yes.
Right. Okay.
So we fine tune it, and in those presentations, we would have also spoken of the motivation of the persons under their command, and again I can speak to the motivation there that is provided by the leadership there, and even the persons on the ground. I spoke with one officer from the Guard and Emergency Branch, I recall, who saying to me, sir, I haven't taken no sick leave for the year. The officers are motivated. This is the feedback I have gotten from our divisional commanders and some of the officers on the ground. The operations they have set up to cover the events in their area is comprehensive, and what they would have lacked, we have supplemented, because it is our overall, I say, it's not us alone.
Right.
This thing involves, it's not just the police, it's the defense force, it's prisons, it's fire, it's the regional health authority, it's licensing, it's REACT, key stakeholders, it's the residents, corporate citizens.
So no matter where you are in Trinidad and Tobago, you should, and no matter how you're participating in the carnival, you should be assured that, your safety and security is covered.
And I like the word participation, because not everybody participates, and we have to cater for them too.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get to them in a while, but ACP,
I just wanted to highlight some of the variables that divisional commanders were required to include in their operational plan for the carnival. Their command structure, the management of carnival generally, stakeholder engagements, they too are required to engage persons indigenous to the respective divisions that are associated with carnival activity, threat assessments, public safety, management of the various zones, communications, a manpower deployment strategy. How are they going to deploy the human resource personnel to manage the various events? What kind of augmentation you need, if any? Routes, contingencies for threats, management of terrorism, public order, and medical plans, detailed medical plans along the route within the division. All of those are variables that need to be considered and included in the respective divisional operational plan. And from that, those 10 divisions, we put together a master plan. Of course, the two major areas of concentration for carnival-related activity is Port of Spain and San Fernando. And so a greater chunk of the resources will be utilized in those areas respectively. But that is not to say that the same level of organization and management is not required, albeit on a smaller level, in the divisions. So this is what we have in place. This is the template that we have been using, and we extend as required. Case in point, a new dynamic this year will be the arrival of a cruise ship with close to 3,000 tourists on Carnival Tuesday. And therefore, a different layer of security is required. Now the cruise ship season is active, and we manage that as we speak. But on Carnival Tuesday, it's a different dynamic, and those persons will certainly want to experience the culture. I guess that's the purpose of the trip and the destination on Carnival Tuesday.
Yes,
so we need to manage that and provide that level of safety and security. Hence the reason we engaged among the stakeholders, members of the diplomatic corps as recent as last year, to give them a synopsis of what is happening, how we are managing, what kind of security we put in place, bearing in mind that different countries or persons from different countries will be coming to our shores. And so we just try to reinforce the safety element through their respective presence by way of the diplomatic corps, foreign affairs, diplomatic corps. We had that stakeholder meeting. All right, and they are satisfied with what we have put forward thus far. And let me just add, and on a further occasion, I will provide the empirical data. To date, we have had a myriad of carnival-related activity. Fetes, PAN, you name it. And they have all been incident-free up to this time, well managed. Of course, there will be minor issues, and as we advance, we iron out those issues. And two issues that come to mind, and I like to be transparent with the public, which is why I call on the public to exercise responsible behavior during this carnival period, albeit it is a time for freedom to express yourself. It is your time. But with freedom comes responsibility, and you need to exercise that responsibility so that you do not show that level of disrespect to the non-participating citizens. That's what it is. They are tolerating your, freedom during Carnival and your activity. You too must exercise that level of respect to those non-participating citizens. Two incidents that came to mind last week at the Panorama. We saw the irresponsible behavior of a small group of citizens who decided that they wanted to apply some kind of force and pressure to get into the North Stand, which was up to capacity. And they were impatient.
They tried to storm.
They tried to storm.
Right.
They were impatient. And they tended to disregard the directions of the authority figures. Of course, the police had to get into action and restore that level, that level of civility. And that was done. But I speak there to irresponsible behavior.
And I guess the fire service had to
certainly
do their job there.
Certainly, the fire services are there to identify, hey, the threat level is now increasing because it stands up to capacity.
Right.
And we do not want any overcrowding. We do not want any mass casualty event taking place there. And so, as part of our public education campaign, our media sensitization drive, the committee decided that we will express to persons some of the dangers based on their irresponsible behavior. Now, the second one that comes to mind is an incident on San Fernando Hill. And I'm saying that, to me, on the face of it, it amounts to irresponsible behavior, albeit a risk assessment would have been done on the place and whatnot. I don't want to open a can of worms here. But to reinforce the point of responsible behavior, facilities provided, you're required to utilize the facilities as any civilized human being, albeit it's a free and, an environment where you want to free up and whatnot. But don't place yourself in unnecessary danger to your demise. Responsible behavior is what is required to ensure that we enjoy what Carnival is supposed to be. So that's my cry to the public. With the freedom comes responsibility. Operate in a responsible manner. We don't have to tell you don't drink and drive, get a designated driver. We don't have to tell you secure your home, your children, if you're going to a Carnival-related activity. But we'll say it anyway. You know this. But we just reinforcing some of the do's and don'ts. It all amounts to responsible behavior.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we have in studio ACP Tactical Support and Goal Commander for Calvin Thompson, and ACP Northwest Alternate Goal Commander Winston Maharaj.
I was gonna go to the question of the FET promoters, yes, because the FETs are obviously a major part of Carnival activity. They're usually well supported, and they often take place in those very concentrated areas in Port of Spain and San Fernando, the city centers. Without divulging too much, how are those FETs managed? Are they managed generally on an individual basis or based on the division in which they're located? And how do you interface with the FET promoters and the Promoters Association, which, how does that process work in terms of... Mm-hmm.
The FETs in the respective divisions are managed at the divisional level.
Okay.
Now, the police personnel for these private events, because that's what they are, private events, are staffed by police officers who are not on active duty. They're on the rest day, the day off, as the case may be. And the strength, as we refer to it, the number of police officers, is really drawn from those persons who are desirous of performing that duty for what is called an extra duty. It's an additional, some remuneration for the duty. Mm-hmm. Now, the strength is drawn from across the service. Whoever is available, regardless of the division to where you are attached, we draw the strength, but you report for duty in the respective division where the event is being held. A command structure is set up together with the full operational plan, traffic plan, to manage these events. So, the short answer to your question is managed at the divisional level.
Okay.
No, so Thompson, the position again on glass bottles for Carnival 2024, it remains the same?
Yes, sir. One of the fine innovations of Carnival 2023 was the introduction of that prohibition against glass bottles. For 2024, that has been proclaimed and is now official. So essentially, for Carnival-related activities in the vicinity of, you are prohibited from having glass bottles, serving persons in glass bottles. And with effect from Juve morning, 4 a.m. until midnight on Carnival Tuesday, throughout our Carnival activities, the prohibition applies. No glass bottles, not even in your possession. And again, it goes to public safety. We know it's not just about a bottle being a weapon. A bottle is a danger. it breaks masqueraders' prancing situation. So it's not just about crime and criminality, it's about it's that holistic approach, safety and well-being of persons. And yes, there is a fine, there is a penalty. Should you refuse to comply, should you not acknowledge all the information that is being put out there for you, you can be fined as much as $1,000, and there's a 6-month imprisonment possibility as well.
Not and or. So it's a fine and a sentence.
And
or you could say and or.
Yeah.
Right. Depends on the situation.
But either way, I wouldn't take the chance.
Right. So that means apart from people selling, you're talking about, we love a cooler here.
Yes.
And everybody have a cooler, almost everybody have a cooler in the trunk. Does that apply to the citizens who would have a cooler and take it into the grandstand, go and wash masks and there are bottles in it as well?
It applies especially in the grandstand.
So if you see me walking with a cooler, a police officer have a right to stop me and open the cooler and inspect what's in it.
Well, I wouldn't speak to stop and search on it, but what I'm saying is, once you produce it, once for whatever reason it becomes visible to us,
right,
you will pay the price.
Okay. I hope you're hearing that, citizens.
Yes, and we've just posted the flyers about glass bottles on our Facebook page, so please avail yourself of those that communication if you are so interested, and you should be, so that you can't say you didn't know. Right?
Yes.
Once you're watching our Dependency and following us, you'll be aware that no glass bottles are to be allowed anywhere in Carnival 2024.
I want to add to that again, consultation-wise, we will be consulting with the bar owners throughout Arapita Avenue, St. James, this coming week to reinforce that particular issue and other concerns that they would have and we have as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Just to add to that, we don't want persons to misconstrue the intention behind the ban on glass bottles during the carnival period. We want persons to understand the spirit of what we're trying to achieve here. It is to minimize the risk of injury or harm to persons, masqueraders, passers-by, onlookers, and a glass bottle poses a clear and present danger. We all understand that. And I just want to extend the conversation too, and to build on the phrase I introduced there, responsible behavior. And while we speak about glass bottle, it always confuses me as a law enforcement officer, as a citizen, performing duty for Carnival and conducting police operations, particularly during the Juve period. And on certain persons, a number of prohibited items are found.
Yes.
You held a man with an axe, A-X-E, axe, on Juve morning coming into the city. An axe.
A real axe.
Well, you're not working in the forestry department. You're ain't working today, but you're coming into the city, the capital city, with an axe. You don't tree sucker here. Your intentions are clear.
Yeah.
Knives, daggers, all kinds of adapted weapons coming into the city, but you're coming to a Juve event. That is always confusing to me. Rest assured, and we often advertise, publicize these things in the post-Juve briefings. You would be amazed at the kinds of things that we discover that persons are coming into Carnival with on their persons. We will continue to be vigilant as law enforcement. It is a necessary action. I don't want to say inconvenience, but we have to mitigate and minimize the risk to the revelers and the citizenry.
An axe.
An axe. AXE, axe. The ones that they use to chop down trees.
A long handle, a short handle?
A long handle axe.
What?
A citizen coming into Juve with an axe.
Maybe he thought it was a prop, using it as a prop for the portrayal, Juve portrayal. I don't know.
Probably a Viking band.
Yes. Because why?
But these are the things that we have to deal with.
Wow.
Right? And of course, you have sympathizers or you too wicked group of people.
Yes.
But we will do what is required. We will not allow arrogance and ignorance on behalf of the minority in any way to dissuade us from performing our duty. The citizenry rely on the police to provide an environment of safety so that they can enjoy the festivities, and we commit to doing just that.
So law-abiding citizens should understand that you may experience a little inconvenience coming into the city, but it is necessary to protect you.
Certainly.
Right. Understood. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we'll get to that question in a moment. And we're speaking with ACP Tactical Support Gold Commander Calvin Thompson and ACP Northwest Alternate Gold Commander Winston Maharaj. Somebody have a question, sir? Quickly, what about the manufacturers of glass bottles during this season? Some pressure must be put on them to not make them available. You spoke about stakeholder consultation. As the texter asked here, what about the manufacturers? Were they involved in that discussion as well?
Yes, this particular feature has become a staple of Carnival. So while the consultations would have taken place previously and continue to take place, it is part of I'm not going to speak on behalf of the manufacturers, but it is part of their understanding of things to come when you approach this particular season.
Right.
You would note that this is a time when you see more than ever at events, you'll go to events, cans, or you buy a bottle, plastic bottle provided. And even as you asked the question earlier on about the coolers, most if not all responsible promoters typically have searches conducted upon entry of coolers.
Right.
Because they share our concerns.
Yes. Right. But before we go to this break, morning, sir. Before we go to this break, we spoke. Now there are people who don't take part in the carnival. They prefer to, they need a little getaway for the carnival.
Yeah.
A little, as the song said, they need a little runaway. So they take a runaway and they go on camp. Let's speak to them. What advice would you give to campers? And I mean, what do you expect from the public, and what should they do to protect themselves, those who go to camping?
Right. Our plan is inclusive of the non-participants in Carnival. So with regards to campers, and the reason when certain divisions make their presentation, like Eastern Division, you're looking at Toko, Mayaro, popular areas. When they make their presentations, it's not just about the events, it's about campers and beach houses, the part-time residents in their area of responsibility.
Right.
So campers register at the district police station when you come in.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have that is a requirement, or is up to them?
It's not something that is mandatory that we could follow, but we provide that. Register. We communicate, and I say we reach out to the clergy and everyone. Register with the district. Once we know where you at, there are general places we will check anyway. Once we know where you at, we will check on you. We'll establish the lines of communication. Just in case there are some people who may want to go off-grid, let us know still. We will check on you. And the warning is to especially the persons who want to go off-grid, even the hikers.
What's considered off-grid?
Off-grid is okay. Everyone goes generally in a particular area, be it in Toko or Maracas, where it have a general population.
Right.
Somebody will choose a secluded area.
Yes. Non-traditional.
Yes. Close to a waterfall, perhaps. Or some not so reachable area. Yes. And then a situation happens, and yes, fire services and other persons will come to rescue you, police and TTDF, but it puts not just yourself in peril, but the persons who have to come in those dangerous areas.
Absolutely.
And resources that should be out on the ground has to be committed elsewhere during
Right.
this critical time. So for campus, there is that element. And you who are leaving your homes, because you may not be going to camp, you may just leave the country because you don't want to be part of it. You take opportunity of a cheap flights to go somewhere else. Again, let the district know I'm away, the house is empty. When our patrols out there, we know you're not there. If we see a shadow, we know it's not you. Yeah.
Right.
In addition to that, among the core, I spoke about corporate citizen stakeholders. Our security companies, in some instances, in some divisions, would have committed their resources free of charge to provide that extra eyes and ears in these residential areas, so we can give you that sort of coverage. But the key thing is communication and sharing of information. You go in, let us know. You're there, let us know where you at, and we will cover you.
Yeah, I just want to add, tying back safety and security and following rules and responsible behavior back into the carnival itself. We know that we have designated carnival routes for carnival bands and whatnot. We also know that we have bands that have been in the past breaching the rules and using another route to cut across a band that is on the authorized legitimate route. We are advising those persons, bear in mind that part of the planning and establishing formal routes requires that we adjust critical infrastructure, power lines and whatnot, to accommodate the movement of your equipment, music trucks and so on. If you use the routes that have not been formalized by the NCC, then you run the risk of creating an unwanted situation, hazard, perilous, dangerous to you and the general citizenry, inclusive of your patrons. So observe the rules. Infrastructure has been adjusted to accommodate the movement of you and your equipment on those carnival days.
Very important. I love that because, again, and people are deviating from the route, I guess, because they want to avoid the congestion. They want to satisfy their masqueraders and give them a free access. But taking into consideration that this has been planned beforehand for all of our safety, the right thing to do is to follow the plan, right?
Yes.
For
if you're just
everybody's
joining
safety.
us, you're listening to Dependency. And
Before we go to the break, someone had a question again about the glass bottles, and I hope the ACPs can address it. He asked, is there any law governing the use of glass bottles in public, and are we adhering to that law? Is this provisional regulation that is in place that is governing the glass bottles ordinance? I don't know if I missed it when I went outside, but is there any legislation or regulation governing the glass bottle issue?
Yeah, well, it's a provisional arrangement formalized by way of law, specifically for the carnival period. And I just want to reinforce the point that I made. While it's a legitimate question, concern, and all these things, I don't want the citizenry to misunderstand the intention, the spirit of why this particular provision was created. Traditionally, and I'm not speaking to the person that asked the question, I'm speaking generally. Traditionally, we have, these people who sit there and look for excuses and try to find legal loopholes, and the senselessness and lose the spirit and flavor of what the particular provision was set about to do. I am advising those persons, don't box yourself into that kind of thinking, but to address your mind to the harm that the particular rule was set about to minimize. That is of main concern there. Don't waste too much energy looking for excuses or loopholes.
Yes.
And even to the vendors and so even if you are purchasing drinks and beverages in bottles, then make sure you have the cups to pour them out into, so that you yourself don't incur any fine or imprisonment, and the person that you're selling to also does not face that consequence.
And that will suffice.
And more than that, I mean, citizens need to understand, all stakeholders need to understand that the carnival has evolved significantly. And I remember sitting in a stakeholder meeting recently, and I proposed the idea of rules being codified, commensurate with appropriate penalties for breaches on the part of band leaders, masqueraders, stakeholders, because of the fact that the thing has evolved. And we need to set some parameters so that, it wouldn't be carte blanche, anything goes. It can't be that. We are evolving. If you go to carnival activity in other parts of the world and your band has 50 sections, but the event is supposed to finish at a particular time, and that time reaches and only 40 of your 50 sections have passed the stage, well, then I guess the next 10 will have to come next year.
Yes.
Because there are rules.
Yes, books closed.
And we need to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You're right.
So perhaps the recommendation may be taken on board if we want to, put together a package now that is codified by rules.
Yeah.
So that's where we reach with this culture.
It brings to mind an incident happened in Canada some years ago. Natasha and I were there, and there was a fete. Now, they don't make joke. Like all the fire officers here, they do their thing. A trainee again promoted a fete, and overload the fete with people. Because, every fete out there they require to have a counter, because every building has a max. And Mr. Man went over that. Finished late and all. And cut-off time for them is cut-off time. So, the Sunday he had a big jam with Marshall and everybody, cast, you name it, big lineup. They wait until the lines go around the building and then go inside and tell him, fete off, That is it. Because last night you did X, you did Y, you did Z, and it goes against our rules. That's it, no fete tonight. He bawled, he screamed, he cried. There was no fete. Because the officer said, Marshall who? He didn't care. You broke the rules. So when I hear promoters here complaining about the police and the fire service and what they're doing and they're heartless and they're wicked and how much money they spend and all of that, they don't understand it's in the interest of the safety of citizens.
Correct.
And that's it, whether you like it or not. So, and we've been joined in studio by an officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service who will be joining the conversation. After this break, you're listening to Dependency. In studio, you're hearing from ACP Tactical Support and Gold Commander Calvin Thompson, and ACP Northwest, who's the alternate Gold Commander, Winston Maharaj. They're in studio with us, and we'll take this break. We come and remember, pay attention to the PSAs in the ads as well in the break, during the break. Very important too for you. Okay? As we say here, drunk or sober,
mind your business.
Mind your business, please. We'll be right back.
Yeah, this is Gladman Blackie. Carnival is really not your thing. So you're going away for the whole weekend. Move smart. Tell the police or tell a trusted neighbor so they can throw an eye on the property for you. Be smart to be safe for this carnival. When I see woman, I just feel like a glad man. Blackie says so.
Morning. Listen now. Has noticed something out. Them new people are never be roady. Where's that? Girl, the man that he passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman.
I really noticed some woman living there, And they can't even say as much as good morning.
Well, listen now. I wonder if it's human trafficking. You think it's that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the counter-trafficking unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Boss lady, you have no problem leaving the kids alone while you fetch, right? Come on, play smart and get a trusted babysitter. Be smart. Miss Callie says so. There we fetch, no regret. I don't mind dancing on my ex. Once you don't expect to get sugar again. No regret, it's all this you used to get. Now you're wishing you had sugar again.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays, at 10 a.m., and exclusively, on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and we're talking about carnival safety and security for all our citizens, whether you're participating or not. We have in studio ACPs Thompson and Maharaj, and as well we are joined by a fire officer, because we know that fire officers as well are called upon in these times to assist us with our safety measures. So
Yes, they were very present in Skinner Park yesterday.
Yes.
Doing their normal safety checks. And in studio we have Fire Station Officer, Acting Fire Station Officer from Fire Prevention North, Mr. David Hunt, who will speak with you in a moment. But you know, the ACPs here have been given lots of information. If you missed any, please, we encourage you to go back as soon as the end of the program to our Facebook page or YouTube channel to get it from the beginning, so you be guided accordingly.
Yep.
Please. Now, gentlemen, what can we expect to see the police? Where? The high visibility is expected, since, you know, officers would be expected to come off leave to augment the existing strength. Are we on top of the game with that? And I guess is there a blanket for officers this year?
So let me first say that you will not just be seeing police officers. You'll also be seeing members of the defense force alongside with our joint approach.
Right.
Once we speak in coverage and visibility. The strength, to a large extent, aside from the joint patrols you usually see, our strength for the various divisions will be further augmented by the defense force. Each division has asked for a certain number, and the defense force has responded positively in that respect. Our presence will be in the, of course, carnival areas, but as we spoke earlier on, it will be at the beaches, it will be in the camping areas, it will be within the residential areas throughout the season. It will not be limited to on land. Our presence will be on sea. The Coast Guard will now have the support of our Ttps Coastal and Air Support Unit.
Great.
So we'd have our vessels deployed as well as our aerial assets. Each and every aspect of national security, every asset that is available, manpower, technological, well, we spoke about the animals, will be out there where they need to be. And some you will see, some you may not.
Right.
But we intend. And I want to go to the feds, as you mentioned, the feds, when you talk about visibility. So as Mr. Maharaja would have said, persons are hired for that purpose. However, our divisions and we on the whole in our operations take cognizance of before the FET, after the FET, and the other issues that would arise. So coverage is provided separate and apart, internal and external to the events, because this carnival must be a safe carnival.
So?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one of the Carnival itself on Carnival Monday and Tuesday generally takes care of itself. The event takes care of itself. It is the pre and the post. Just before Carnival, we're talking about Juve, that little period there, and post after the official Carnival activity has been completed on Carnival Tuesday. And I'm saying that one of the issues that arises is that we have persons awaiting transportation to get out of the city. They're vulnerable. They still have some alcohol, the residual effect of the alcohol and the savanna dust, inebriated and whatnot. And they just awaiting transport. Of course, we know that is limited. One of the stakeholders that we have engaged is the Public Transport Service Corporation, PTSC. And we requested that they operate outside of their normal daily schedule, simply because we want to minimize any harm to those vulnerable persons who are awaiting public transport to get out of the city.
Right.
And PTSC has responded. They have published their schedules, their revised schedules for the carnival period. And so we want to urge the public to pay attention to this and know that public transport is available to help get you on your commute wherever it is that you need to go.
Free of charge?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's free of charge. It comes with a fee.
No, because you see, why I say
Unless
this.
you're over 60, of course.
No, because you spoke about Notting Hill. Stop it, Natasha.
Because we know pensioners ride free.
Yeah, I know. As a senior citizen, I know that. No, but you spoke of Notting Hill, and we've had the opportunity to see Caribbean and all this, and they open the trains and the buses free to masqueraders and revelers and all of that, just to get them, just to dispatch quick, just walk on a train, walk on a bus, climb on a bus, and you're gone, So that's why I asked the question if PTSD offering the same, that same convenience to masqueraders.
Okay, well, it's a nice idea, it's a novel idea and whatnot. Perhaps based on budgetary allocations and whatnot, they will consider that. But to my mind, I am not aware that it is free on this occasion.
Right.
All right, so...
Yes, I know, I hear you. I just wondering,
I would have seen something relative to it, PTSC advertised, and it is I would say at a minimal cost when you consider the getting into Port of Spain with the traffic, finding a park. So the cost that I saw that they published, it is more than reasonable.
Right.
But I believe as we talk evolution, perhaps in the year or years to come.
Yes.
There could be something in the future.
Yeah.
Before we go to the fire officer, Pearl has an important question, and it speaks to the collaboration that the ECPs have mentioned about Tech and the safety of masqueraders and performers on trucks. We know they have these massive trucks, a lot of trucks on the road.
We had an incident just driving here this morning.
Yes, just driving here this morning on Duke Street, there was an electric line that was loose. I don't know if it was loose from before, if a truck hit it. I don't know, but it hit our car, unfortunately. So these kinds of minor incidents and major ones with power lines. How is the police involved with securing the infrastructure of electric lines in these city centers?
Let me speak to that. So consultations. Mr. Maraj spoke on it earlier on. A route is identified. Tech, and I witnessed it last year. The level of work and commitment they give to that exercise. They go along the route. They raise lines that need to be raised. They restore lighting in the area. Mm-hmm. I remember last year, the avenue was so well lit. So TNDEC does that along the route. And now we have responsible behavior, to use Mr. Maraj terms, responsible citizen behavior. And enforcement. So among our partners is the Transport Commissioner and his licensing officers team.
Okay.
And the enforcement teams that will be on the road during the carnival to enforce that trucks abide within just what they would have been licensed for or given a permit to exercise. And we speak about the evolution. Perhaps eventually it will come to what exists in other places, that the penalty may ultimately be paid by the ban.
Yeah, because I see some trucks where people actually have a special stick, to push up lines while the truck
So,
going.
Yes.
I've seen it.
The enforcement teams will be out to treat with that, and we will increase, with the increased visibility, any sighting of that type of conduct will be dealt with accordingly.
Okay.
It just may be. And we are appealing to the band leaders. We have consulted already and will continue to consult to ensure, for the sake of your patrons, your masqueraders, and the viewing public, that you ensure that your trucks comply, that you won't be short of a music truck on the road. As simple as that.
No, ACP, now somebody asked a question about the drivers again. They don't take money. So if I see the bus, still get on it? Because the driver, they have to, and people may not have bus tickets. I think this is something PTSD really should make a comment on, and I hope they listen to this program so that they could do that during maybe tomorrow, to let people know how they could navigate that, because it's right, PTSD drivers don't take money.
Correct.
And if a citizen who never purchased a bus ticket in their life now
Once they get
find
on a
themselves
bus.
in town
Yeah.
and they want to get on a bus, how do they do that without having to pay the driver? So I think it's a good question, and PTSD maybe could make a comment on it.
Yep.
And
maybe we could go in the future, as we were saying, to either a free service or some kind of electronic.
yes. Now, the
press a card or
ACPs spoke to that already, Pearl, about the TNTech and their cooperation. But we have to, gentlemen, if you'll excuse us for a minute to speak. No, you can stay right there. We just share the microphones. So we have in studio David Hunt. Gary, you have that clip? I spoke with the Mr. Andy Hutchinson, who is the acting chief fire officer. And did you all know that there was a fire at John Towers last Friday? And the fire officers had to save some lives. And if people had died, that would have been blown all over Trinidad and Tobago. I didn't know about that. So Gary, just play a bit of that conversation, please, and then we'll come back with Mr. Hunt here.
Western side to gain access. Because like I said, we had some challenges with equipment, personal equipment, which, if we had it at the time, would have been, faster in terms of the execution and extinguishing the fire. Right. Like I said, it did not diminish the professionalism and the dedication that these officers have, right, towards saving lives. So I must send kudos to these guys.
Right, and I've been corrected. That was Noel Stewart, and he is the
Assistant Chief Officer, Northern Division.
Northern Division, yes. I was. My apologies, folks. I'm sorry, I messed up there. So that was Mr. Noel Stewart. Now we welcome Mr. David Hunt, Fire Station Officer, acting and from the Fire Prevention North. Can you elaborate on what we just heard there? Because, as I said, when bad things happen to the fire service or surrounding that, we hear about it.
I'm not to share too much information because all incidents requiring the services of the fire service must be investigated, and investigation is being conducted. Right. The fire officers responded. They saw the scenario that was happening, smoke emanated from the apartment. With what resources they had, they got in, they knocked out the fire. The woman who was involved spoke about how they treated her. They were very respectful, they were very polite. She did a social media release, and she was very thankful for their response. And as a firefighter, you are always in a mindset to help the public, right? So it's something that is your second nature. So the fact that she gave feedback on their positive response was nothing shocking to me.
Right. So we speaking Carnival 2024 now, and you heard the ACPs and their plans. How does that coincide with fire service and their plans to work alongside the police?
Right. So as much as their job may be from a security nature, our job is from a safety nature, and sometimes security and safety overlap because these two senior officers interact with them regularly. Me and Mr. Thompson worked the Queen's Park Savannah for PAN,
right?
And we did with a lot at PAN. So the chief officer has met with his executive, and he put certain systems in place, especially for the carnival season, because it presents an additional risk of excessive accumulation of people at one particular place, especially when they would be under the influence of alcohol and probably lack of sleep, so their behavior may be different. And his divisional commanders has been informed to put stuff in place. Some would include the restriction of leave to make sure that all stations are properly manned, and the additional stations which are not close to ground zero, which is Port of Spain or probably San Fernando, they give that additional support if anything untoward is to happen. We also have fire officers present at almost every public event that you're going to have around the city. Right, their main responsibility is hazard identification and mitigation. So their job is to make sure that, if they see something going to happen, they knock it off one time, right? And active monitoring. And they are like the reconnaissance team of the rest of the fire service. If we see something has the potential, we send word to the divisional commanders and they will enact whatever incident command system needs to be done.
Now, you heard the HPs just spoke about collecting weapons and so on from people. The fire service ever encounter these things, and we've seen videos where revelers like passed out, drunk, can't recognize themselves, and
that is one of the recommendations from the fire service is responsible drinking. But because we have a lot of experience at public events, we work very closely with the police officers because where we are the subject matter experts in safety, they are our enforcement. Right, so they give us full support. I worked with them last night or even night before. Something I want to comment on that we have been seeing an increase on is women being inebriated and being carried out of fed by other men. Right, my fire officers, I sat at an event last night and as the fire station officer attached a fire prevention section, the reports come back to me because we Central Command when it comes to events at any Northern Division, which is the main hub. And they talk about scenarios where also Officer Hunt, we saw these guys going with a lady, but we realized, hey, they don't look like, So we stopped them and asked them questions. What's her name? They drop her, they're going back in the party. Right?
Wow.
At the time a guy came to report to us, officer, there's a strange woman in my car. I don't know who she is, and I don't know why she's in my car. We went, for some reason, I can't see what was happening, and we got her, we kept her, right? A lot of times we have to call parents to come and pick up their daughters, and it happens to the sons too, but I think the women are at a greater risk, right, for obvious reasons. So what we do, we keep them within our personal space, sometimes for the entire event, and sometimes at the end of the event, you'll see somebody coming looking for them at the end of the event. We had an experience where a patron at a public event was drunk in the toilet and he had a firearm on him.
Oh, God.
Right, so somebody brought it to my attention. We contacted the police officers. My officers took him to the ambulance, they called his friends, and that was dealt with. Right,
you all never thought about publishing books, has it? Like writing these experiences. No, listen. You see what you just said? Go back to the first one, and ACP, tell me what should have happened here. What that scenario you painted there? Date rape drug. Somebody was drugged, and you're asking, what's the person's name? But I want to commend you all. Get that applause button, Gary. You know why? Because this is the keen eye of law enforcement that we've been asking for on this program. When you see something like that, stop them.
Be proactive.
Ask them,
Yes.
who is this person? What's her name?
What
They
is her
dropped them and
relation
went back
to
in the
you?
Fed.
Anything
No,
like
they
that?
should have been arrested, right? Not so? If that's it, because what you expect,
Was
what
it-
you
Or at least
expect
detained
that
or
was
questioned. Seriously?
Yeah, they
Yes.
lost. They get back and they lost in the crowd because they're smart. So when they lose themselves in the crowd, it'll be difficult to identify. And
So that was either a case of human trafficking or date rape.
Correct.
They were going and have their way with her at some point.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so we ask that women, you make sure and stay with your group, your team, and if you're going to the washroom,
Yes.
right? Again, I've had instances where they say, officer, we need to come. The woman in the washroom, inappropriate state, and they knock out. So we have to get like a female officer to come set them up and hold on to them until. Something that we ask at all public events is what we call a medic station or a cold zone, right? A sober zone or cold zone, so that we will gather them in that area until either they recover or we get somebody to come and pick them up. Sometimes, well, if their phone, sometimes you have to use their finger to get the passcode and call back the first number that you have on it. And and I've been in the department going on 15 years now, and I realized that there's an uptake in this type of behavior. So I thought I could share a comment on it this morning.
I mean, from our perspective, this is obviously a serious concern because we understand how the consumption of alcohol can lead to very risky alcohol and or drugs can lead to very, hazardous, dangerous, perilous situations for anybody, man or woman. But especially for women who maybe they don't know that women have a lower tolerance for alcohol. We are physically smaller. We metabolize alcohol slower. We cannot consume the kind of amounts of alcohol that men can. We just can't. And if you are adding an illegal drug to that, you're being set up to be harmed, and I don't understand how to explain again. If you're going to a fete, you're going with your girlfriends or whatever, stay with your girlfriends. Now, okay, you might be wanting to go and look for a man, but make sure somebody knows where you are. Because I mean, like I can't. I don't know how to say it again.
Would you ever reach to the point, and each of you could answer this, would you ever reach to the point where bartenders need to have a special license?
A skill to be able to detect when someone has had too much.
Right. And not only that, there are some bartenders who will work in tandem with perpetrators.
Yes.
They will have the drug.
Yes.
To drop in the drink. Mm-hmm. When they back turn to you mixing, you don't know what they put in that. Mm-hmm. And if somebody is identified as a target, the bartender could work with them. So would it be safe to say at some point that a police officer or officers could just walk into a fete and say, let me see your license for your bartenders, please? Mr. Mara, let's start with you. You think that will ever reach that point? Apart from a cutoff time for alcohol sales.
Yeah,
right?
Which we we advocated for.
The whole conversation speaks again to responsible behavior. Just as the institutions of state are planning to create a safe environment for Carnival, for the event and the revelers, participating and non-participating citizens, so too must the citizens take it upon themselves to pre-plan. You go into an event, how you getting there, with whom, if something were to happen, who are your emergency contacts, what is your contingency? It has to deal with responsible behavior. It comes back to that. No, we can't police stupidity. We really can't. Unfortunately, it's not an offense. And to ask a police officer to do that, I mean, I don't think that the salary could ever accommodate that kind of response. But it's responsible behavior.
Responsible bartenders and specially trained bartenders who can identify people who have too much to drink, one, and can cut off people and say, no, I'm not selling you any more alcohol, you're drunk.
Well, then it begs the question now, and this is another argument for another place. We balancing economic returns with moral responsibility. How many of us prepared to deal with that question?
Thank you.
If I have $1 million to make from somebody who drinking until they can't drink again, they bathe in with it.
Yes.
And am I now morally obligated to prevent them or stop them? I have money to make. So it opens up another question. Are we a society that has evolved to the extent that we could, look out for each other? Hence the reason why I call for the codification of rules and whatnot for Carnival and related events, all in a bid to bring some semblance of order and structure to how we want to express ourselves, particularly on these days.
Sir?
I have to say, I would endorse the views of Officer Hunt. I've witnessed that phenomena of females, and we as men tend to expect something different from females. But in terms of what you recommend, one of the things that was a revelation for me as a younger man when I started traveling is that, to be a hairdresser, you have to have a license. Yeah, you understand? So I think, yes, I say yes. A number of things that we take for granted, we need to bring it to that level for the safety of everyone, be it Carnival or outside of it. Because the place changed, the environment is different.
Absolutely.
Yes. So for the things that we took, a tradesman, the things that we took as basic, you go and you do all the time with somebody and then you come out and you open a shop.
Yes.
Or you know what, as a barman, I agree. It is necessary for the protection of one and all. I would support it.
So we need to oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sir.
And we look at even the all-inclusive events where there's alcohol executions, where they hand you something and nobody assessing your present state.
Yes.
So that's the next dimension, and something we also experience a lot is people who are under medication, not taking their medication, especially for non-communicable diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes, etc., coming to the event, drinking alcohol, and then being in a state.
Passing out.
Some events provide, as I say, the medication and provide cuts. And we have had scenarios where people come into the event for the first hour, they're out, spend the entire night with us on the cut.
After they spend
$2,000 ticket.
Yes.
And again, sometimes their significant other decide that here we're going on. I spend 2,000 by 2. I still partying. Right. So they say, look at them for me, and they spend the entire night with us.
No. Wow.
Yes. Yes. Wow. That's very common.
What?
Yes.
So you wouldn't even say, well, okay, let's go home.
No, go home, no. They left them with us and we chaperone them for the rest of the night.
Oh, wow.
What did you say?
Yeah.
Wow.
Lie down and sleep, the cover up. And again, some events provide a nice air-conditioned room, so it's comfortable.
Wow.
Wait, hold on. So I went to all-inclusive with my wife, and she started before me and she passed out. I come and drop her by you and say, take care of your man because it's $4,000 jumping up here. What?
And it both goes with us. Sometimes the wife says, something else.
Okay.
Wow.
I just want to
wow.
I just want to extend the conversation a bit, all dealing with safety, security, responsible behavior, and whatnot. And I want to speak specifically about the emergency routes or routes within the city of Port of Spain for emergency vehicles. And while part of the planning and the execution of the plan would be the publication of traffic restrictions, parking and whatnot on Carnival days, also included in that notification are emergency routes.
Right. So, ACP, could you hold that to break?
Sure.
And we come back with that. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we have in studio ACPs Thompson and Maharaj, Gold Commander and Alternate Gold Commander, respectively, and Fire Station Officer Acting David Hunt. He's of the Fire Prevention North. We're going to take a break.
Before we do, Garth, can I just say that I think the onus is on us and for responsible citizens to advocate for the lawmakers in the society to establish some regulation around the sale and consumption of alcohol as it is in other countries, so that regardless of whether it's a public or private event, if you are selling alcohol or serving alcohol at your event, the person serving the alcohol have to be trained, have to be licensed, have to be trained, and they have to cut off at a certain point.
Because the manufacturers, after Carnival, going to go into their boardroom, put up on a slide presentation.
How the sales went up.
This is how the sales went up, and
Carnival
congratulate each other and go on vacation.
Yes, and
right?
and pad up their bank accounts.
Yeah, and go on vacation, and while we recovering in hospital and
in rehab.
And in rehab.
Right.
You know,
and
let's go to a break,
please. For
break.
driving. I mean, come on. We need to have the regulations in place, the laws in place. That's where it starts. I mean, as the ACP rightly said, we can't legislate for responsible behavior, but we can have the safety measures and the regulations in place to ensure that at least the sale and the consumption of alcohol is managed.
And the breathalyzer, we suspect, will be out in full gear this
Yes,
carnival.
of
So
course.
we'll talk about that when we return. Stay right there. We'll be back.
Oh lad, oh lad, oh lad, oh lad, oh lad, oh lad. Yo, no kind of stress and no more drama on the nation's roadways. Yo guys, we fetting smart and we driving smart this carnival. We taking safety measures against real threats. So play smart, fet smart, and move smart to be safe this carnival. I'm Raymond Ramnarine from Dilly Nadan. Love you, TNT. Respect. Anything you want in the all-inclusive. So bring everybody down and come now.
Hi, babe.
Hey, how are you? Good morning.
You busy?
Not for you, how could I assist?
Okay, we have a job for you.
Job? What kind of job is it?
Morning, boss. If I have a small work for you, I'll 5,000. What you do? Pick up some girls, drop them and remember by the boss. So you're making a quick 5,000.
Girls, boss. What is this about?
Listen to me now. It's not a small work. You reach in Toko, pick up some girls, drop them at Rima. 5,000.
That sounding like human trafficking. Are you trying to set me up or what? Partner, you know the penalty for human trafficking? Look, I gone now. Excuse me, please.
Do you know that human trafficking is considered a serious crime in Trinidad and Tobago and is punishable by law under the Trafficking in Persons Act Chapter 1210 or the TIPS Act? The penalties for recruiting, receiving, transporting, or housing a victim of human trafficking are a minimum of 15 years for trafficking adults and a fine of $500,000, a minimum of 20 years for trafficking children and a fine of $1 million, a fine of $350,000 and imprisonment for 12 years for transporting a person within or across TT borders for the purpose of exploiting that person for prostitution, a fine of $400,000 and imprisonment for 15 years for persons who receive a financial or other benefit from tips, a fine of $500,000 and imprisonment for 20 years for any person who receives a financial or other benefits from trafficking children, an additional 15 years imprisonment for any trafficker who uses or threatens to use a dangerous weapon on a victim, or where the victim suffers serious bodily harm, or the victim contracts a life-threatening illness or is sexually assaulted, or if the trafficker abuses his power as someone entrusted with the care or supervision of a child victim. Imprisonment for 25 years for any member of the Defense or Protective Services or any official or public officer having the powers of arrest who commits an offense. Court can order forfeiture of convicted trafficker's property. A company can be fined $5 million for engaging in tips.
We are the counter-trafficking unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Carnival season, a celebration of color, creativity, revelry, and unity. We welcome people from all over the world to enjoy TNT Carnival, the greatest show on earth. But behind the scenes, there's a relentless effort and precise preparation to ensure your safety. On foot, in the air, on horseback, on motorcycle and mobile patrol, we are your constant line of defense. While you party, we patrol. While you whine, we work so you can enjoy our sweet soca music. All ranks out in full force under the watchful eyes of the Commissioner of Police. The rhythm, the vibes, and everything that makes Carnival memorable. From desk job to detective, every officer is called to the front lines. We come off leave so you can leave all your worries behind and fet with no stress. All hands on deck. While you play, we work. We are dedicated to protect and serve to ensure that your experience of the greatest show on earth is safe, enjoyable, exciting, and memorable.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency. We are in the last legs of our program this morning about carnival safety, and we have the pleasure of the expertise and experience of two ACPs, Assistant Commissioners of Police, ACP Thompson and ACP Mirage, as well as Fire Officer Hunt in studio, sharing their experiences and their knowledge and really advising us all of how we should be conducting ourselves for Carnival.
And trust me, the
beyond.
off-air conversation are even more interesting than the on-air conversation. But we'll keep it tight. Let's you were going to speak on something before we went to the break, sir.
Yeah,
so let's start with that.
I wanted to address the issue of the emergency routes in the city of Port of Spain for Carnival. Now the destination, regardless of the routes, is really the Port of Spain General Hospital. Now, one will appreciate the proximity of that destination to the focal point of the carnival activity, the Queen's Park Savannah, and all the associated issues. And so again, going back to the theme of responsible behavior, when the notifications are published establishing routes, parking and no parking zones, we ask our citizens to adhere to these rules. It is significant. It could save your life.
Right.
So we say that one of the emergency routes is vehicles to get to the Port of Spain General Hospital from downtown is Henry Street. Not on Henry Street, across New Street, into the Port of Spain General Hospital. We ask motorists to keep that route clear.
Repeat that again, sir, please.
Henry Street, right up to New Street, across New Street or east on New Street, into the Port of Spain General Hospital.
Okay.
We have Edward Street, north along Edward Street, again onto New Street, into the Port of Spain General Hospital. There is an emergency route from Woodbrook, north on French Street, onto Maraval Road, east on Warner Street, south on Cipriani Boulevard, east onto Melville Lane, south onto Dundonald Street, east onto New Street, onto Charlotte Street, and into the Port of Spain General Hospital. That's the Woodbrook route. We also have a route from Long Circular, north on Long Circular Road, south onto Saddle Road, south onto Queen's Park West, east onto Warner Street, south onto Cipriani Boulevard, east onto Melville Lane, onto Dundonald Street, just as the previous route into the Port of Spain General Hospital. Of course, we will highlight these as we move further. Additionally, it is published on the newspaper. So citizens are advised to pay attention to these routes. Additionally, we have specific routes based on the nature of the event that is taking place. Of course, these routes are premised on emergencies that warrant an emergency vehicular response, with the intended destination being the Port of Spain General Hospital. But then there are other eventualities that may take place that would warrant the conversion, immediate conversion of a non-stated route, emergency route in the notification, be converted. For instance, if we have a fire and the fire tenders need to navigate, they can take whichever route is best suited to accommodate the size of the vehicle, the scale of the operations. So the routes, although published, are subject to change based on the dynamics on the day in question. But the important message here is for citizens, again, to exercise responsible behavior. Do bad park contrary to the parking restrictions. You could be saving your own life or that of your family or your loved ones.
Right.
Responsible behavior is what we encourage.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Thompson, let's talk about people, FUL owners, people
Yes,
who have firearm users license, they have their firearms, some of them want to party with them. What advice would you give to those folks?
So the advice I would give for that is lodge your firearm at the nearest district police station.
Right.
You're going to a party, let us say in the west, you're passing a number of police stations, so lodge it. In south, lodge it at the nearest police station for you. Some persons may have a concern, when I come out of the fete, a concern for my safety. However, your safety begins with when you go into the fete, which is a situation where it can be taken off of you under, well, I use the term under wine and jam or alcohol. So rather than create that situation, and should something happen in there and you fire in there, and when I say fire, discharge your firearm, as you say, in defense of yourself.
Yeah.
Think about, you will be likely to face a court after that. Should somebody else perish because of you defending yourself. You can't justify that. So it comes back to wisdom, that level of wisdom. Lodge your firearm. There are, again, the more responsible promoters who seek the best interests of their patrons and would ensure that a facility is placed at the venue. The NCC in particular has made it a point of having that facility available at the Queen's Park Savannah, Skinner Park, any of their events. A facility is available whereby members of the police firearms permit unit will be present to secure your firearm for you. And upon conclusion of the event, it will be returned once all is level with you.
Right.
That facility is available for any event, any promoter. When you're planning your event, and perhaps I shouldn't just say responsible promoters, perhaps I should say experienced promoters, because maybe some people don't know. But it is something that is available for you. The police would advise accordingly again when we are investigating your event. We can advise, but we cannot force it upon you. It is up to you to do the right thing.
Now, Mr. Hunt, how many IDs and wallets and credit cards have you all found after that?
Usually there are a lot, and besides IDs, wallets and credit cards, telephones, cell phones, but we take them to the promoters, right? If we find stuff valuable like money, jewelry, we take it to the police officer, right? And they will deal with it from there. And people, again, they come to party with your phone, and then somebody either pick your pocket and take your phone, and then they come crying to the fire service, they come crying to the police service. They want the police officer. I've seen this personally again, to go in the crowd because they see there's he having a red hat and a white vest, and they think you're right there. Crowd of over 3,000 to 5,000 people, and to find him in this crowd and get back, your phone. Right? And they're upset. But police say we can't go in the crowd and look for that. You understand? So again, responsible behavior. I think that's just that's the mantra. Responsible. But here's the flip side. Are they at an age to be responsible? Because we have been identifying that the appearance of some of the people partaking at these events, they look underage. Now again, it could simply be the appearance. But then what is the parameters to deal with that? So is there supposed to be an 18-year and over limit in terms of for attending events?
Absolutely.
And as such, should we provide your ID on entrance?
Especially if you're serving alcohol, there must be.
As the subjective needed to determine if you look too young, let me see yours. You understand? So that helps a lot with mitigating the overindulgence, because when you're younger, you're not aware of your limitations.
But even when you're older too, but I mean, but it again that goes back to my point about the regulation of the sale and consumption of alcohol. Because if you as a private promoter having an event and you're serving alcohol, how do you determine that your patrons are of age to consume alcohol, to begin with. There's no check and balance on that.
Sure.
And there are certain events that actually target the younger.
Absolutely.
Crew. And we have a term, we call it teeny boppers, young people, and we see them, and sometimes we have events that we engage the police, and we say we find somebody looking young, and sometimes we go to the promoter and say, and then they start to pay attention to who, but then what will happen is that somebody of a responsible age will buy the alcohol and give it to the person of a junior age.
Yes.
So the issue should they even be present at the event, seeing that is a licensed event of a bar.
Yeah.
Right? And the license of a bar, and an occasional license. So this is, again, as we were saying, some discussions need to happen and some regulations need to be in place.
This has been a very, very important and interesting discussion this morning. We've learned so much from you all. And gentlemen, ACPs, a retired soldier was asking, why can if retirees, you've all considered, or maybe I think it's not necessary, but reaching out to retirees from the Defense Force as well to be part of this drive, because these guys retire, but they still want to serve. You know that. They are soldiers and sailors, police officers who just waiting for that call.
Well, I could speak to that in that, as we speak, they are within the ranks of the police service, former members of Defense Force, other agencies who would have been recruited as SRPs. So that avenue is open. Applications can be made.
Right.
And I can't speak for the Defense Force, but I know they also have that avenue for their volunteer Defense Force.
Okay.
So that avenue is always there.
Right. You wanted to say something before you wrap up, sir?
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, let me come up, Mr. Hunt. As you have you
right,
wanted to share that with us?
So what the fire service try to do is take a proactive approach with public events and not to be caught wanting. So when somebody applies for the license, we allow you to come in to us and do an interview.
Right.
And we go through a checklist. Right? We ask for the number of patrons. Because as a concern of they being overstrength by both the police and the fire service, sometimes they give conflicting information on their patron count.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So
I
had a personal experience with that. Now, I don't ask you how much people you expect and how much tickets they sell. The question I ask is at what number you'll be comfortable with me closing your gates.
You give them that option.
That's the question I ask.
Serious?
That's how I get the right answer. Okay. What number, if I say we close the gate, say officer, I get my belly full, I get. Right? That's the number I want. Because that's the number I have to cater for. Right? Because police strength is strictly heavily related to numbers. So I can't have a police strength for 2,000 and they bring 3,000. Right? Our strength is somewhat related to numbers, but we have specific hazards as elevated structures, food court, emergency exits, EMT coverage that we also consider. Their job is keeping the peace. So the more people they have, is the more resources that they would need. So we asked that question, and we had the experience where they gave us 3,005. So we went to the event, and what they don't know is that we always coordinate with the police officers. So one of the first things we advise our senior officer in the event, engage the senior officer of the police who's in that event and have a discussion, get his contact. Right, you all have to work together. So he said, what number they get? I said 35. He said, no, they gave me 25. I said, what? So we called the promoter together. So I asked him, and he said, yes. He said, yes, they gave him until they really gave him 25 because I wasn't too sure about how they were selling the tickets, etc., etc. So I said, okay, the number has now been adjusted to 25. The number has now been adjusted to 25 because, again, we are one. They don't understand that.
Yes, the same
Even though we separated in 1950, the mentality is still a symbiotic relationship. Right? So we do that interview, so we want to get all the information. So I know we strive for time, but we are advising that they give us all the information, you be upfront with us to prevent the embarrassment of us having to close the event at the backdrop.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, you can take some calls for you?
Yes, of course.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that there. Again, to reinforce the point, balancing the economic returns versus your moral responsibility.
Yes.
Because I had a similar experience at a concert at the Queen's Park Savannah last year called Redemption.
where the promoter was less than scrupulous, giving a number greatly lower subscribed than tickets sold. And when a strength was quoted, went to different levels of the institution to complain, only to make adjustments, about 4 adjustments in a 3-day period for increased strength, subject to ticket sales and whatnot. It started out at about 5,000 or whatever. It ended up with about 15,000 at the Queen's Park Savannah. 24, closer to 20. Closer to 20,000 if memory serves me correctly. So I'm saying the whole intention behind promoters engaging law enforcement and other arms of state is to provide that environment of safety and security. Do not compromise that safety and security. Look to cut your corners elsewhere. Pay the caterer a little less.
Yes.
Negotiate with him.
Yes.
Negotiate with the scaffolding man a little bit.
Right.
But not the law enforcement and fire prevention officers.
Thank you.
You're compromising safety and security of your event.
Good morning. Yes.
And the other guests.
Good morning.
Thank you for that. This information that we're getting here this morning is very vital to to some people who are not even thinking they want to go to a party and not even thinking about the safety of your home and your children and stuff like that. And I want to say thanks to everything that you all said. And one thing I just said, people keep the ladders away from your house. Officers keep the ladders away from your house at that time. And make sure that your firearm, you shouldn't be going to party with a firearm. What are you going to party with a firearm for? You're not going to bring more or problem, you know.
Thank you.
I feel like if you're being caught in a party with a firearm, you should be a charge for being in a party with a firearm.
Thank you, Manu. Thank you very much. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Good show as per usual. Could you advise for those of us who have to work on Carnival Monday and Tuesday, where do we get passes for our vehicles? Because we have to travel the route of masqueraders.
Okay, thank you. Anybody could help with that?
Is passes for vehicles?
Yes.
Yeah, so you would apply for those passes, and these are vehicles just to travel, correct?
Yes.
To transport masqueraders.
Is that what he said?
No, but he's talking about he has to work, so he's
to
trying
get
to get
right.
to his workplace.
So
yes.
you make those applications at the ACP for Specialized Support Office at Riverside Plaza.
Okay, so I guess on the company that he works for should apply for those passes
yes,
on,
they usually
on their
do,
behalf.
right?
Right. So you heard that, sir. The ACP for
Specialized
support at Riverside Plaza is the application needs to go to that individual.
And people who transport in masqueraders as well, same place they have to go.
6th floor Riverside Plaza.
6th floor Riverside Plaza.
ACP Specialized Support.
HCP Specialized Support.
When we say transporting masqueraders, we being specific to vehicles designed for transporting of persons, not no pickup or no
yes.
no big truck.
Yes.
Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, and what a beautiful program. I would like to ask the officers there, what is patrolling in a vehicle? Because I observe, I'm a former officer, I observe police in the vehicles nowadays, the style is like glass up, and they're driving through, and they don't wind down the glass to hear if somebody's screaming out for help. What is patrolling in the vehicles? I want to find out.
Yeah. Right, so when we have the police, that is a whole different discussion. And I think we should, because, you know, I'm not driving my glass down because of the climate. I mean, you expect police officers with all those tactical gear on to, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I think it's a discussion we need to have in the near future. But thanks for raising it. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, God.
Morning.
Yeah, good show. Listen, gentlemen, I want to find out something. Earlier on, you all make a statement about well, not retirees really, but, you know. I would like to find out why it is that, let's take, for instance, police and defense force personnel. These retirees, I think they could be used in diverse places. That's my words, eh? Too many times we have, in the area where I live here, we have a lot of them. They retire and they want to serve again, and they say whenever they go is the red tape, and some get fed up and they migrate, and it's not all good for us. I think we should have a system, just like the other countries. Whensoever you serve your country and you retire and you want to come back, there shouldn't be no red tape saying, well, you know where it goes go at, the well.
Yeah, I hear you, sir. I hear you. All right, so we take one more and then we wrap up. Good morning.
Yes, gentle people, good morning. A quick question for the Gold Commander. Does he believe that legislation with a sunset clause to maybe end on Ash Wednesday, that people caught involved in violent acts, robbery, aggravated assault, and so on, should be instituted, say, maybe a week before Carnival, and these people will forfeit the right to bail until Ash Wednesday, so that they're not allowed to commit such acts during the Carnival period? I'd like to hear his thoughts on that. I know it's really a legislative question.
Yeah, we just have a minute before news, sir. And
it's actually 12 o'clock on the dot, sir.
Exactly,
so that's a complex question to ask at this juncture. But
probably we could have somebody comment on it next week. We have Children Authority in, and we could probably have a police. So I'll speak to Ms. Archie and see if we can get some clarity. So we have two things to deal with. But gentlemen, this has been very eye-opening, very, very comprehensive and educational conversation this morning. And we want to thank you all. If you just joined us, we were speaking with ACP Tactical Support Gold Commander Calvin Thompson, ACP Northwest, and Alternate Gold Commander Winston Maharaj, and David Hunt, Fire Station Officer Acting Fire Prevention North. Go back to the start of the program when we finish on Facebook or YouTube, and you will get everything that they discussed here this morning. Closing remarks, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Well, just to remind the general citizenry, the machinery is in place. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and other support agencies boasts a proud record of safety during the Carnival period. We have put all systems in place to continue on that trajectory, and we'll do all within our remit to make Carnival 2024 a safe and memorable one for all participants.
Yes, and I want to thank our hosts for engaging us here today to get out our message and to emphasize that this team, of which I've been appointed Gold Commander, all entities, our goal or intention is to impact positively on the economic, the cultural, and everything surrounding quality of life for Trinidad and Tobago for this Carnival 2024 and beyond.
And on behalf of the Chief Officer, his mandate is to practice responsible behavior. And if, for instance, you have any situation and you have a fire officer within your presence, you seek assistance and it will be provided.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Let's get the applause for the gentleman, Gary.
Yes. Very entertaining, informative program. Thank you so much, and all the best for Carnival 2024. We hope that your jobs are not made more difficult by the citizens.
And thank you for your service, gentlemen.
Yes.
Thank you. And for those of you asking, no, I didn't make it to the finals. I think I had to get the police involved in this. I could have talked to these two SCPs after this. But I want to thank you for your support. Thank you very much for those of you who believe. I give it my best. All right, and let's see what happens going forward. But once again, gentlemen, thank you. Gary, Tash.
Good afternoon.
We have major news up next with Mr. Kyle Saunders.
This is I 95.5's Who the Cap Fit.
Who the cap fit? Let them wear it.
There is a significant difference between a leader and a cheerleader.
Who the cap fit? Let them wear it.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the most influential name in radio, I-95.5. live local coverage you can depend on. This is News Center 5 at noon.
The stage is set as the 11 contestants vying for the Calypso Monarch are revealed. An earthquake shakes several parts of the country. The opposition calls for a probe into the conduct of the police